Well, your business will definitely benefit our guest today. I have Dr. Bauman on, who is a hair expert, and he is here to talk about hair and scalp health and trends and what's going on in the industry today and how COVID is actually affecting business in a good way. So maybe there is a silver lining somewhere. But you and your team should be watching this now. If you're not, you will be getting the link. So feel free to ask questions at any time. If they're private questions, just email us and let us know. We'll get you the answers from Dr. Bauman. Your business will definitely benefit today because you want to start some awareness in your practice, even if it's as a referral business for healthy hair and scalp. So we look at facelifts, we look at aesthetic procedures for the face. It's either one and done or you come back every few months. Well, Dr. Bauman will talk to us about the multi-faceted approach for long-lasting results. It's not like a facelift. It's not like a neck lift. You go in, you get it done, you recuperate, you're done. So Dr. Bauman is been in this business a very long time, and we're friends for a long time. The National Hair Loss Awareness Month just passed, and that was in August. And the news had so much about hair and COVID and what's happening in the industry and how it's growing and the growth of the hair industry. I'm hearing from people who are not really doing anything but selling vitamins for hair, how they're flying off the shelves and they're selling, so much. So what's driving the hair and scalp business? Well, Beautiful Forever University is here to help you learn more from our special guest, Dr. Alan Bauman. And he will talk about market drivers, market trends, market challenges. And there'll be a lot to learn in a very short span of time. And so I would like to tell you a little bit more about the hair transplant surgeon who is 110% focused on hair. So it's not like he's doing multiple things. I've been to his amazing building and his focus is hair. So if there's anything you need to know about hair, he's the guy. But he's a full-time board certified hair restoration physician. And there's only about 200 physicians worldwide that actually achieve the certification that he has. And it's esteemed board member for the hair restoration surgery. And I'm learning more and more about it and very interested in setting up clinics and setting up hair programs, even non-surgical. Dr. Bauman has pioneered many technologies with hair transplant, low-level therapy, his PRP and PDO grow, as well as his eyelash and his eyebrows, and many other things you'll hear about today. But he's frequently a guest at many international conferences, I guess now virtually, as we all are. And he was voted the #1 top hair restoration surgeon in North America. And I also say he's the #1, located in Boca Raton, Florida. So he's a neighbor of mine as well. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Bauman and talk about, we can start with the National Hair Loss Awareness Month and what's going on. Hi, Dr. Bauman.
Hey, Cheryl. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So we want to, I love this little picture here. It's funny, but, the month of August, the National Hair Month of Hair Loss, there was so much in the news. There was so much going on. How did you find that it affected your practice and you yourself, opposed to just, and by the way, there is an article that we will offer to everybody who is participating today that you had written, and I will talk more about it.
Oh, good. Yeah, so every year, August comes around, National Hair Loss Awareness Month, and we've been using that as a way to stimulate the conversation, not only amongst colleagues, but also patients and potential patients about their hair loss situation. And this year was certainly no different. For us at Bauman Medical, it was really a perfect storm. It was a super busy month of patient education. And so everything from podcasts with one of the best-selling authors in the field of wellness, Dave Asprey's podcast came out this month. He had a procedure that we did for him about 6 months ago prior to COVID. And we recorded a podcast the day before the procedure. And so that came out like the first week. Then we had Alyssa Milano, who's a very well-known celebrity suffering and recovering from COVID, posted on Twitter about her hair loss, shedding by the clumps, by the handful. And so a lot of the news media was very interested in finding out what's going on with the shedding after COVID. And then that kind of dovetailed into just the pandemic stress. You know, I mean, we're all under just an unusual amount of stress. We're working differently, we're schooling differently, you know, we have to behave differently. We're socially distant. Many of our things that we would normally do to just relax and take it easy have been interrupted, and our lifestyle has changed quite a bit. So all of these people are, you know, everybody in the world has really been affected in some way, shape, or form. And when that happens, and the stress occurs in that way, you can get some shedding and hair loss and exacerbation of underlying hair loss conditions. So it's really been it's been a very, very busy month for us, Cheryl, with all that patient outreach. I think we ended up with about 4 or 5 different news stories, plus a Instagram Live with the Nutrafol folks on hair loss and COVID, Facebook Live with one of the local news stations, and of course, as I said, the podcast with Dave Asprey was very well received. You know, tens of thousands of views just within the first few days, actually, when that came out.
Well, and I know that you also teach a lot of hair or potential hair surgeons and non-surgical as well. So I'm sure you're getting more and more inquiries about, well, how can I do what you're doing and make more money? Because it is a cash business. And, you know, there is financing options as well. And I know we've talked about it in the past. What percentage of your patients, because, you know, they're big ticket items, might be saying, well, because of COVID times, my child lost their job, my husband lost his job, I'm feeling insecure about money. I want a credit card. I want to know how to pay. What do you have your staff trained to say or to deal with when it comes to paying and they don't have the money to just write you a check or use their own credit cards?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, Cheryl, a lot of our patients are not super price sensitive. They are interested in the quality of the work that we provide, the artistry, the expertise, the skill set, the methodologies that we use, you know, the advanced ways that we transplant hair using minimally invasive techniques like follicular unit extraction and low-level laser light therapy in conjunction with the procedures and many of our cell therapy approaches. So, you know, just in general, there isn't a lot of pushback in terms of cost, but when there is, and of course we want to help as many patients as we can, there's a wide variety of options, and sometimes flexible payments are required. And, you know, we are certainly keen on providing those things for our patients. You know, it really comes down to whatever's really in the patient's best interest. We also do a lot of pro bono work, and we were talking just before we went live on the air today about my foundation, the Bauman Philanthropic Foundation, which routinely does pro bono work for those who are suffering with hair loss, who have been injured by trauma or, you know, burn victims, scar victims, and things like that. So there's a lot of different methods. If they're truly in need, like I said, if they have been injured in an accident and you know, they can't afford treatments or services, then we definitely put that case in front of the foundation and let the board decide on what's you know, what's most appropriate to get the job done there. And then you know, if there's other situations where they need flexible payments over time, then we certainly have financing options for them if they need or want that, for sure. And sometimes it's just a matter of splitting up the procedures into maybe smaller procedures that are more handleable financially for the patient over time. They may come back for smaller sessions, but of course what they have to deal with is then the extended times that they're going through the downtime of the process, you know, maybe spending a week out from public eye, let's say, each time they undergo a smaller procedure. But, you know, with everyone at home sheltering in place, what we found in terms of what's driving the industry right now is that patients I spoke to years ago about transplants who were super busy just didn't have time to, you know, to do anything, to much less fill their car with gas. Now they find themselves with all this extra time on their hands. And really, they've been calling and saying, hey, this is the perfect time for me to be able to shelter in place, to stay out of sight, and to get my hair transplanted.
That's great. We got to get a Bauman hat. So if they're wearing the hat, we know what's really going on underneath there.
So a lot of our patients don't want to wear the Bauman hat or the Bauman bandana, and that's okay. I tell them they could just turn the bandana inside out if they have to, you know, go out and about. But no, many of them are proud to wear the Bauman hat, and it does not say under construction. You know, it's just a
Well,
team hat that we have.
you know, but I think some of the awareness today with Zoom, like we are right now, and you're looking, well, I'm looking at my makeup, I'm looking at myself, my necklace, you know, we all want to look good. I think that has brought a lot of awareness to the whole aesthetic industry. And of course, you know, going into the hair market, which is growing for many reasons, as we talked about, people are just looking at themselves so much more. I know that, you know, men take longer to make decisions. Women are thinking about hair transplants, but most of the hair trans surgeons don't work with women. We do have that, like on our next slide. And, you know, it'd be interesting to hear your point of view on, you know, the space of what women want, because they're listening to Bosley, you know, newscasts and commercials. And it's usually about men, and
Yeah.
men are usually talking about hair transplant. When I talk to other hair transplant surgeons, they're talking too, well, we don't really deal with women. And I know from talking to you that surgery is not for everybody. We both know that.
Sure.
There's many non-surgical options, and the buying cycle is unique. So for a non-surgical versus surgical for your men, what are you finding is the buying cycle? How long does it usually take them? Okay, I know the ones that didn't have time that are coming back now. It's a little bit of a unique situation we're in, you know, but.
Yeah. So when it comes to hair, sometimes it's a 911 hair emergency, and you know, it takes 10 minutes for them to decide what they need or want to do. And then others, it takes a decade, you know, so it could be 10 minutes or 10 years. But I think the most important thing really is to make sure that whether you're talking to a man or a woman about hereditary hair loss, because that's, first of all, make sure that that's the diagnosis. You know, make sure that we know what we're talking about here: androgenetic alopecia, hereditary hair loss, and it's not something mimicking that. So, you know, be sure to get trained on what is and what is not hereditary hair loss, because that's going to make a big difference in terms of your success with therapy and treatment. But everybody wants to maintain the hair they have. They don't want to lose the hair. So even if they need a transplant, there's still probably a lot of hair left that needs to be protected and enhanced. And you may or may not know this about me, but I had one of the largest direct accounts with Merck for Propecia back in the 1990s when it first became FDA approved. And we prescribed a ton of preventative therapies. And so whether it was minoxidil at that time, that was over the counter. And of course, now it's prescription. We can get a prescription compounded version, which is a little bit more sophisticated. Or it was a Propecia Pro Pack in the office. And now, of course, we have compounded versions of those as well. We were very, very keen on preventing the hair loss from occurring. So if they're not ready for a transplant, either physically or maybe financially or just mentally, psychologically, you want to make sure that you're at least doing something, you have some kind of treatment to provide that's going to give the patient some benefit in the long run. Because if you can stop or slow down the hair loss process, actually, those patients become better candidates for transplants in the future, and they will certainly get a better looking result from the procedure in the future. So it's going to be really, really important to think about non-invasive therapies. And of course, it goes way beyond medications today that can be compounded. At-home treatments with laser light devices. You can do in-office lunchtime treatments with PRP or PDO Grow. You know, all of these different things are designed to help keep the hair that you have growing strong and preventing that hereditary male or female pattern hair loss from occurring. I guess going back to your question about the female hair loss situation, you know, I've never understood why my physician colleagues don't like to treat women who have thinning hair. They're certainly very appreciative when you can let them grow their hair back. They certainly don't have any other option. You know, they can't shave their head like, you know, Telly Savalas or Michael Jordan or, you know, Sinead O'Connor. You know, those are not hair heroes for the women out there. So, you know, I think they're very grateful when you have a treatment and a procedure that works. But a hair transplant in a female patient is going to look and be a little bit different than a male patient. Maybe it's not as simple to provide, and maybe they need more adjunctive therapy going in the long run. So I would just say, to my colleagues out there who want to treat women with hair loss, know what you're treating, and get well versed in the tools in the toolbox of what to do and how to track it over time. That's the other thing that we can
Right.
talk about as well. And I think that's the key to anybody coming in for a hair loss consultation, is making sure that they understand not only the options, but also the tracking methods, the biohacking methods that we use to really measure the results of what's working and where and how much.
Well, I think that, and your office does a very good job of the follow-up and the life cycle of the patient and keeping them happy, keeping them coming in. I know you personally, are in 6 a.m, for your procedures. You're there at 6 p.m. You're there for your patients 24/7. And I think that dedication also says a lot, not only for you, but for your service and for the whole hair industry. And I think you're a good role model. And also, as I know for many years, a great teacher to other physicians, as well as an educator to your patients. So I think there's a lot of hand-holding with men overall, even in the aesthetic business. Because when you talk about men, you talk about the LGBTQ community, there's a lot of hand-holding and a lot of education that's needed, more so than for women in aesthetics, because that's the field that I focus, the wellness, the aesthetics, the anti-aging. So now when we're talking about the hair, I think it all equals much more education, much more information. And I think the buying cycle is probably longer, but you have them then as a patient for life is the way that I see it. So, women that are going through menopause are having problems with hairline receding, not that men don't. I guess they go through their own menopause. So, how do you handle the receding hairline? We talked about the hair loss and coming out in clumps. I'm not sure how you treat it, but I know you have an approach with multiple different things that you do, as you mentioned. But how do you deal with a woman's hair that the hairline is receding, or they're losing their eyebrows or eyelashes? And I know that's a big deal to women, because we look in the mirror a lot during the day, whether it's to put our lipstick on or our makeup on or fix our hair. So, I guess I want your professional expert advice on that.
Yeah, so it's really important for women to maintain what I call the frame of the face. And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at. And of course, I guess today, you were saying that, we're seeing each other on Zoom more often than in person. So I guess belts and shoes are going to be out this year. When it comes to the frame of the face, that's what we really need to work on preserving. And so if a woman has a receding hairline, like a deep recession of the temple area or a hairline that's receding backwards, we definitely want to protect behind that with medical therapies, but we're probably going to need some degree of transplantation to fix that. So, it's really important. And I've talked a lot about this in many of the lectures and conferences that I give on female hairline lowering that we do with grafting. We do that with hair transplantation. So it looks soft and natural, and there's no scar to hide or anything like that. And it's permanent living and growing hair, obviously. But I think it's really important to maintain not just a feminine hairline, but a youthful hairline in that way. So making sure that we can keep that growing strong for our women. And of course, the importance of the hairline for men. That's what determines the youthful shape of the face as well. So, for both men and women, it's kind of a similar concept, but you're going to approach it a little bit differently in terms of design.
And, we all want, I guess it's today's world, results right away. You go in and you get your Botox and filler, or you get your liposuction or facelift, and you want to look good in 5 minutes. It doesn't always happen that way. So with hair, it's a much longer timeline. How do you manage patients that, get this done and they're like, how long is this going to take for me to see a difference? I want to look better in pictures or on Zoom.
Yeah, so it's going to take some time to grow the hair thicker, stronger, better. And that's one of the most important things that we cover in the consultation process. So what we tell our patients is that hair fallout and hair loss can happen fast, but the hair regrowth happens slow. Actually, we know that it grows only about 1/4 of an inch a month, which is about 1/3 of a millimeter a day. So hair grows pretty darn slowly. If you're going to see it, first of all, do you even notice that you've lost hair? You have to lose 50% of your hair in order to be visible with the naked eye, that there's some thinning going on. And then in the reverse, for you to notice that there's hair growth coming in, I had a woman today come in and say, well, I used Rogaine for a month and it didn't seem to work. Well, gosh, that's not even close to the amount of time that you need to use minoxidil. Maybe not the right even treatment process, treatment program for her, but it's going to take us 90 days just to measure the improvements with the tool. And then it's going to take another 3 to 6 months from there to see it visually with the naked eye or on a photo. So this is going to be like a 9 to 12 month long project here to see results with any kind of treatment regimen. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong and why they give up on topical medications or laser light therapy, or even other therapies like PRP, for example. They may not know that it's going to take some time to measure results, like with the hair check tool, for example, and to actually see the results. It's going to take a long while.
So what are you looking at, 6 months, a year for somebody to really see a big difference?
Oh yeah, for sure, at least. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it takes a year to grow out from a hair transplant procedure. So, it's going to take time to get your weaker hairs to grow thicker and stronger and better.
So they have to stay on most of these medications for life. It's not just like, okay, take it now, you had your procedure, you're done. It sounds like you have to really be bought in. And I think that's where your consults and your education come in, which are very valuable.
Yeah, this is, patients need to realize that hair loss is a chronic and progressive condition. Hereditary hair loss is that it gets worse with time without treatment, and that whatever therapy or treatment regimen is working for them, they can't give it up. It's like your gym membership. You got to keep it going, you can't just get to a point where, oh, my hair is great, now I don't need the therapy anymore. No, that's not going to work. Unfortunately, I have patients, and we're all human, and we seem to kind of fall off the wagon sometimes, and it's human nature to do that. Patients who have had transplantation, they've been on medical therapy for many, many years, and all of a sudden something happens, a lifestyle change, maybe a change in their job status or something, and their priorities shift for a moment, and they kind of take their eye off the ball. And unfortunately, if they stop their hair loss medications or treatments, for example, the transplants are permanent and they continue to grow, but the other hair continues to thin out. So they may need to get back on their therapy, is my point. And unfortunately, some of them come in too late. They need to have a transplant again to get them back to their goal. So you're absolutely right. This is a lifelong battle. And, today we have the therapies I mentioned. Hopefully we'll have future therapies that are even better than what we have today. And we're always working on innovating new technologies. But, if it's not one thing that you're doing today, it's going to be something else that you're doing later on. Because right now we don't have a permanent cure for this problem.
No, there's absolutely not. Well, maybe your foundation will be able to come up with one as we grow, as we get older. When you talk about the heredity, is it heredity that you're following your father's or your mother's? What side is it on?
Yeah, so it used to be that everybody thought it was like the mother's father, and that was the end all be all, and that's how you knew if you were going to go bald or not. And there's some truth to that because it is an X-linked gene, but quote unquote. But there is a lot of influence from the father's side as well. We know that there are genetic and epigenetic factors that influence the hair loss situation, that these things, there's about 200 different like snippets, if you will, which are gene locations where we're talking about hair color and curl and texture, and the androgen sensitivity, which is, the trigger for male pattern hair loss, and how fast and that's going to progress and what pattern it's going to be. All of that's predetermined to some degree. And then you have the other factors, which are lifestyle factors like nutrition and stress and sleep and the whole wheel of wellness, as we say, which affects the hair process, and your body's inflammation and all of these other things which can impact it. So there's definitely a lot of factors there that can impact your hair loss over time, for sure. But yeah, so it can come from the mom's side. It can also come from the dad's side. So you can blame both parents and their ancestors.
It's funny because it used to be, oh, it's just your mom's side. Now it's your dad's side. Now it's both. So
yeah, now he gets the blame. Yeah, now he can get the blame too.
And say, oh, am I going to be bald? Or so I know that there's some hot topics and some new topics. And by the way, congratulations with another award. I know that you're always, in the top getting awards and rightfully so. So congratulations on that.
Thank you
Oh,
so much. Yeah, we're super excited about some of the newer awards, like being listed in the top 20 worldwide, and of course the Aesthetic Everything Award. I see you have the slide up there for the fourth year in a row. Um, but those awards don't mean anything to me. They're really all about what the patient experiences and the patient results. Those are the key things, and that, I share those awards with my patients. Obviously, they're the ones that vote for us, and so we certainly appreciate them and appreciate their support of what we do and how we do it. And that's what the excitement is, really the results in the patients. It's not the awards and the accolades, and but it's a fun practice to have when you help someone fix their hair loss situation, or even their scalp health situation, which can be a very annoying problem, which we can talk about. But when you fix somebody's hair problem and you give them back the hair that they want, it turns on their happy switch. I mean, it's a fun place to be able to do that for people. And I think sometimes that's underappreciated, the psychological impact of the hair.
no, I'm sure that it's huge. I mean, you could change somebody's whole self-esteem and, the way they feel about going out in the workforce and, their relationships. I mean, a lot of men that I know that are balding or have bald spots, I mean, they're so conscious of it. They might not be talking about it, but they're staying up at night thinking about it. I know that it takes them a long time usually to make a decision. And usually it's the woman, or they see themselves in pictures, or maybe now Zoom, that's getting them to finally do something. And but most men are very bothered by that, and I understand. Listen, the whole aesthetic industry of Botox and fillers and lasers is growing slowly in the men's market, but it is growing because men are working longer, they want to look better, they're living longer. So it's the same thing with hair. I don't think there's an average hair age anymore.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, we see, I mean, I see boys in their teenage years literally having male pattern hair loss. And, there's a lot of things that we can do to help them with that situation. And of course, as we age, men who are out there in the workforce, they don't want to look much older than their stated age. And if they're in a social situation, again, they don't want to be like the only one guy out of five who looks much older, whether, hanging at a bar or whatever, or at a Zoom meeting now. But so there is really no specific age when it comes to wanting to help your hair. And sometimes it's a change of life that triggers it, a different chapter in their life, perhaps, a new job situation or social situation. Maybe it's a divorce or a loss of a loved one or something. I mean, on both sides, and that can happen to both men and women. I spoke with a widow just this week a woman who's interested in, fixing her hair, making that extra bit of confidence for her so that she can go out and be social. She doesn't want to have to worry about a thinning hair process, if she's out there in the social world, trying to meet people.
So it almost sounds like, people should pay more attention to this when they're younger. And if they see any kind of change, they should really not wait the 7 or 10 years that it takes them, so they can step ahead and stay ahead of the curve. And I think we could probably have a whole talk just on that, on how to, I think the awareness is very important. That's where I thought the August, hair loss month is good for awareness. But really, as somebody maybe in their 20s or early 30s who is not balding yet, and their father or mother might be, but how do we get them, interested like we do with injectables and fillers? And some of them are going for PRP in the skin, and I know that it's one of the things you do with the hair as well as the PDO growth threads. So tell us a little about those technologies, because those are newer in that hair restoration arena that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right about starting early. Obviously, the medical therapies and non-invasive therapies, just like what you mentioned, PRP, PDO grow, topical medications, custom compounded medications, laser light therapy, they all have one thing in common. They need a follicle. And if the follicle is dead and gone, forget about it. Those treatments are not going to provide any regenerative effects or rejuvenating effects. So you definitely want to start early. And as we said before, you can lose 50% of your hair without it being noticeable to the naked eye. So get some measurements done if you think you're at risk. But so PRP, platelet-rich plasma, is the workhorse of regenerative medicine, and we've been doing it for over 12 years, over 7,000 PRP treatments. So this is not like a little test tube and a salad spinner anymore. This is a very sophisticated, well-wrought process that we have learned through regenerative medicine conferences like American Academy of Anti-Aging and Vegas Cosmetic Surgery and Boston BioLife, and the derm conferences like South Beach Symposium. We learned from all different walks of medicine, orthopedics and wound healing, and you name it, that you need cells, signals, and scaffold in terms of concepts and technology for this regenerative medicine stuff to work. So if all you're doing is decanting out some platelets from a test tube with plasma, you're probably not getting the right dose of platelets. And if all you're using is that liquid plus nothing else, like a extracellular matrix or a scaffold product, like a perinatal biologic, you're not going to get a long result. You're going to have to do that repeatedly every 4 to 6 weeks to get the results. Whereas if you combine it, cells, signals, and scaffolds, that's where you're going to get the boost. That's going to be strong, and it's going to last a long time, all the way out maybe 10 to 14 months before it starts to diminish. And so that's our basic PRP that we do.
So they're coming back every year, let's say, for an annual maintenance.
Yeah, about 5% can last a little bit longer. If they have severe risks, they may need to come in 6 to 9 months, but most people are going to be lasting about a year, about an annual reboost with the PRP.
You know, it's interesting, as consultants in the aesthetic industry, as you know, we often get physicians or nurses that call us that want to go into hair restoration. I know, because I've been educated by you and your team of other, colleagues, that hair restoration itself is not for everybody. Because somebody is a surgeon, maybe doing facelifts or butt implants, a liposuction, it doesn't mean that they be a good hair surgeon. I know it's very tedious work. I know that you do this 24/7. So what do you say to surgeons that are out there that say, oh, it's a lot of money. I can get $25,000 for a hair transplant. I don't have to be bothered doing a facelift or learning facelift, but it's not really for everybody. Nothing really is for anybody. Let's put it that way. But I know with hair, there's some criteria. And what is that? What would you say is the criteria to be a good hair plant surgeon?
Well, I think, and we talk about this with some of the consumer advocates in the around the world, like Spencer Coburn from The Bald Truth. What does it take to really make a difference in people's lives with hair surgery? And I think probably the number one thing is some degree of passion for the procedure. And so if you're just thinking about adding another menu item onto your list of services that you provide because you see people walking around who have hair loss out there, that's probably not a good enough reason, to be honest. And I've taught and trained a lot of physicians over the years, tried to train them. And some of them are really good. And some of them, just didn't have the passion for it, unfortunately. Or maybe they thought they did initially, but then over time, they realized that they just didn't have the volume of procedures in order to stay good at the process. So I think it takes a special type of person. Maybe I'm a little OCD when it comes to the procedure and so forth. But that's just it's not for everybody, and that's certainly true. And but I think what is for everybody, to be honest, is the hair coaching and hair training programs that we have that teach you how to medically manage the hair loss process. And so if you're even just thinking about maybe doing some degree of hair restoration in your practice, you've got to start at the basics first. And that's like a hair coach. That's what we do. This is a teaching and training program, a certification program that we do in my office, usually on a quarterly basis, now going to be moving virtually online. And we have a small group of people that come through it every quarter, typically. And what we teach is the basics of hair loss, the basics of different diagnoses, what to look for and how to measure and monitor the hair loss situation, how to accurately get a diagnosis, how to look for risk factors in those patients. And then what are the different types of treatments that you could provide, and how should you provide them, and when should you follow up with the patient? So I think you need to start there, to be honest. If you're thinking about learning PRP, or even the newer treatments, PDO Grow that you mentioned that we helped develop with polydioxanone threads, and then moving into hair transplantation from there in a more one-on-one preceptor type of position. Those are the kinds of advice that I would give to someone who's out there. And look, come and observe. I mean, that's how I got started. That's how I, basically learned about surgery to begin with, is I looked over someone's shoulder and watched them perform procedures. And I got excited about it. And I said, hey, I think I'm interested in that. And I took it further and then further and further.
No, I mean, and some of the questions that we're asking is, about training. And I think you just answered, which was great, some of the questions we got about training. And I know that you offer all kind of training at every level. So that's great to know that now you're doing it virtually. Are you also doing, I forgot to ask you, virtual consults?
Well, so yes, I mean, I've been doing virtual consultations for 20 years. We used to send patients little disposable 35 millimeter cameras and, get the cameras back and then develop the film and look at the pictures and call the patients and talk to them about the hair loss situation and what we could do about it. So virtual consultations have been a part of my practice for many, many years. Nearly 50% of my patients visit me from out of town for the procedures that we provide. So having a robust way to talk to patients who are out of town has really been a part of the practice forever. But more recently, obviously with Zoom, we are very familiar with Zoom and other methods of communication through video conferencing, whether it be WebEx and even the more simple ones like FaceTime and Skype and so forth. We've been doing for a long, long time. But obviously now it's more sophisticated. And in fact, I launched a new website called telehair.net, which will be a portal specifically for hair loss consultations so that patients can get access not to cheap generic medications like you see all these cloud pharmacies online. I'm not going to mention their names. You can certainly Google them, but to get access to really spectacular prescription products, compounded prescription medications that are really head and shoulders above the rest of what's out there, in the supermarket, and just coming to your doorstep with a subscription with no guidance. So that's telehair.net. We're super excited about that. And that came out due to COVID. That was the idea that those things were happening at the time that, people were socially distanced. So we needed to make a more robust consultation process for them.
No, it sounds like the perfect fit at this time, and it will continue. I'm sure you and your colleagues talk about it also. I think everything will continue with a little bit more caution, even if we're in this situation for another year, which I hope not, but we don't know. So it's so nice to be here without a mask talking to you. But I think that's the online sales of products, skincare products and hair care products is zooming. So I think what you're doing is great for your patients and for future patients. And then being able to teach other doctors how to set it up. And I like the handout that we have today from you, the Biohacking Baldness article. So anybody who's on the webinar or has signed up for it will get a download copy of that article, which I thought was very interesting. So they will get that. And the key takeaway for today for a practice starting up or expanding, to put closure on this view, because I know you have a patient waiting for you, what would you say is the key takeaway for today that you'd like to leave everybody with? And you can always come back and be invited another time.
Yeah, well, and thank you so much for having me. I think the key takeaway is really, if you're interested in treating hair loss and you want to expand maybe what you're doing, taking whether your regular PRP stuff to the next level and specifically tailor that for hair, or if you really think that you might be interested in hair transplant surgery, connect with a physician. It doesn't have to be me. It could be one of my esteemed colleagues from the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, or another board certified hair restoration physician from the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery. But connect with one of us and pick our brains. And we have, like I said before, the Hair Coach program, which is a great way to kind of get your feet wet without jumping all the way into the pool. And we can guide you and help you develop that hair loss and hair restoration part of your practice. And then you can use that as a way to dovetail, if you want to go further, into hair transplantation. So
I think that's
I
great.
would say just reach out and connect with someone and find out if it's really for you before you start going out there haphazardly treating patients, or maybe just get more refined in your information of what you should be doing for those patients, and how to really track them over time, so that you become part of the solution instead of part of that problem that may be delaying the treatments that they need.
And some of the education is up and coming. You're very involved. I just got involved in the business end of it, but the summit for hair loss is coming up, the Global Hair Loss Summit. So that everybody for the first time will be invited to. It used to be a small group. So maybe you want to tell us 2 seconds about that to give them a little plug, and we can get more people watching us again virtually
Yeah.
at the trade show.
So this is the first 100% virtual conference that's going to be online, all about hair, that's ever been done. The Global Hair Loss Summit 2020 was a brainchild of Spencer Coburn, who is the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. And he is also a best-selling author of the book called The Bald Truth, and a radio show and podcast by the same name. And he very routinely gets over 100,000 listeners on his shows on a weekly basis when he goes live. And a very, very exciting pillar of the community in hair loss and hair restoration, and really the primary patient advocate. So he's the link between the consumer and the physicians. He gets most of the complaints and all of the moaning from the consumers out there, but he also gets the credit for bringing a lot of attention to the field from physicians like myself. And he has his own hand-picked group of physicians that he likes to work with, and that he feels are doing very good work. And I'm proud to be a member of that group. And I was a founding member of that group over 20 years ago. And it's very exciting to be a member of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. But the cool thing is, as you mentioned, is that this is open to everybody. So no matter who you are in the field of hair loss and hair restoration, you can submit an abstract and get time to be able to talk to your colleagues and share the knowledge. And I guess I'm just surprised that some colleagues don't share as much as we do. I have a passion for teaching and sharing and learning. My grandfather was a PhD and a college professor and so forth. So maybe that's what's in my DNA. But I always find that the more I give in that way to the educational societies, and the more that I participate, the more I get out of it, and the more that I learn. And it's one of the, not a problem of being separated and socially distanced, that so many conferences that we would normally go to, all of that networking has been a kind of squashed for a little bit of time. We have to find an alternative for that. So the virtual conference, Global Hair Loss Summit 2020, is going to be awesome. And, I know that you'll be there. And so I look forward to seeing you there, as well as all of my other colleagues who are going to present some really great information. I saw the list. It goes for pages, everything from state-of-the-art hair transplantation to platelet-rich plasma and PDO grow. We're going to be talking about exosomes. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest in hair cloning research, all the regenerative technologies. So it's really what's happening now, all of the cutting edge information for anybody who's interested in hair and hair loss and the treatments. It's really the place to get that information.
Yeah, and I actually will be promoting it as well. And I do think that it's exciting that everybody's invited. So I'm happy about that as well, because we get so many questions about hair that now I can actually send somebody to a virtual summit, and they could sit at home and not complain that they have to travel. So I think that's great. So I appreciate all of your time and energy today, and all of your feedback is always wonderful. And I'm sure there's so many other topics we can cover. And Beautiful for University is one of my passions as an educator by trade. So my next launch will be the actual university. We have members already. We're growing that. We'll have to make you part of it in some way in the hair division. But I thank you for all of your time today. And if you want to stay on, you're welcome. And it was great to see you. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. And of course, your viewers can find me out there on social media at Dr. Alan Bauman, and they can DM me. They can message me anytime with any questions that they have, stuff that we've talked about here on the webinar, or any other questions about hair or hair loss. You can find me there or at baumanmedical.com.
Thank you. And we did get a lot of questions, but by reading the questions, you were answering them. So, and I kind of prompted some. So we had a lot of questions and answers, and there might be even more. So I thank you again, and have a great week and a good holiday weekend.
Thanks, Cheryl. You too. You take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So the Beautiful Forever University is here to help you to grow your practice. And weekly, we do have interviews that will really help you and your staff and help you to grow your business. So the happen to have one here. The Digital Resource Guide, Beautifully Profitable, is on Amazon, but I can't give you a discount there. But if you go to beautifulforever.com, we can give you the e-version discount at 50% off. And that's only for a short time now. And the discount code is actually the word profit. Also, we're doing complimentary sessions, and mentoring has grown a lot since COVID. So we are expanding our profit centers into the full season. We want to help you to expand your bottom line, your return on investment. We want to help to mentor you if you are a small practice, consult with you if you are a mid or large size practice. And we have complimentary intro sessions and follow-up. So I look forward to hearing from you with any questions. You can email, you can call. We're always available to help. And education is my first love. And so Beautiful Forever University will be formally launching very soon. So watch out for that. And our next slide will tell you about the next dates. I'm really excited because you really will benefit from all of our key opinion leaders. So we have everything from a hot topic on women's sexual health. Dr. Red Allenstott is world renowned and an amazing physician and educator, and very excited that he said, yes, I absolutely will be on your talk show. So I was happy about that. So that's September 11th. So that's our next one coming up. And on the 16th, we have Dr. Derek De Silva about wellness, anti-aging, the 5 points of wellness, and adding that profit center, which is definitely something very interesting to listen to. Most of you know Dr. Randy Waldman, and the key to success to filling your schedule, a plastic surgeon who also has a med spa, and Miami doctor who's going to do a deep dive into some new top procedures, Adam Rubenstein, who is pretty renowned and well known in the Miami and internationally as well. So save the dates, weekly programs, visit us at beautifulforever.com. Lots of good content. I have weekly articles and columns that are posted. Happy to talk to you. You can email, you can call, and I look forward to seeing you every week. If you can't make it, it's okay. We'll send you a link. Just sign up for the Zoom when you see it, and we send out newsletters every week or two, reminding you about our amazing key opinion leaders and how you can grow your practice and make more money and be profitable. So stay beautifully profitable, and I look forward to seeing you next week.